an out gay cabaret singer and porn star.
Now, all my childhood...
Shocking!
Which pig was it? Was it the straw pig, the brick pig, or the other pig? Here at Real Watchlist, we want to take a moment to thank Lighthouse Photography for allowing us to film at their beautiful studio. As a husband and wife team with over 15 years of experience, Lighthouse Photography brings you most cherished moments to life through their passion for stunning photography and creative graphic design. From breathtaking wedding photos to heartfelt family portraits, check out their work at lighthousephotography.com and follow them on Instagram at Lighthouse Photography, where memories are captured for a lifetime. Now back to our episode. Opposing the evil Barnaby, Ollie D and Stanny Dunn, played respectively by Laurel and Hardy, try and fail to pay off Mother Peep's mortgage and mislead his attempts to marry Little Bo Peep. Enraged, Barnaby gets his bogeyman to take revenge on precious Toyland. And this film is a fascinating piece of cinema history.
And this year, they celebrate 90 years since the release of this movie. So
wow.
It's not only an extra special movie, but this is an extra special episode as we will be highlighting the movie Babes in Toyland.
All right.
March of the Wooden Soldiers.
Sounds good to me. Right.
So on a count of 3, down to 0. 3, 2, 1, 0, flip!
I have 10 with a plus. 10 with a plus.
I love this movie. Both 10s. We are both 10s.
Yes, we are. And those are either soldiers on the bottom or they are blue fleas.
Blue fleas? No.
Yeah, they could be blue fleas.
No.
And what I'm going to do is, of course, we're going to talk about our costumes later, but I have trouble turning the pages
Me
with
too.
gloves
We got these gloves on.
So look now, then we'll explain later, but I have to take them off because otherwise I can't turn my pages.
I can't flip my cards.
Plus, I'm getting more and more red and blue ink on my gloves.
So the wonderful beginning of this movie, Mother Goose flipping the pages. What's really wonderful is that not only is she flipping the pages and introducing the characters and the actors, but also an interesting feature of the movie, again, black and white, you see a visual, actually the movie superimposed on the pages as she's flipping.
And I love special effects from back then. I think they're so cool. And people, though they're primitive, they're this and that, I don't think so. And I'll fight to the death about old special effects.
And the opening scene, they introduced the song Toyland. I mean, anyone who's seen this movie will remember the iconic song Toyland.
Toyland, Toyland, wonderful girl and boyland.
And the rest of the verses. And if you haven't seen this movie, please watch it. Or if you're an adult with children, share this movie with your young ones.
Right.
If you're in the region of northeast region of the United States, and you get WPIX, you could always see it on Thanksgiving Day, Thanksgiving morning, usually around the time of the Macy's Day Parade in New York City.
It's on the same time as the Macy's Parade on PIX at 9, and then they repeat it, usually at 12.
Yep. So definitely this is a moment to share with your family, or if you want to just like feel nostalgic. Like at the beginning, as you're opening into Toyland, you're going to Mother Goose's shoe. Widow Peep, you're introduced to her. And the kind of funny thing about the film in that opening scene is you're introduced to characters living in a shoe, which is part of the fable that we've all grown up and known to love. The twist is that there's a mortgage on the shoe. And there's an evil landlord, Barnaby, who holds the mortgage, and Widow Peep can't pay the mortgage on time. And Silas Barnaby wants to, throw her out onto the streets of Toyland.
Unless he
marries Bo Peep,
who he has a fascination for. And that's like a Me Too thing now. You think this old guy is after this nubile, virginal little girl that watches her sheep. And the funny thing, too, is the house itself has 1 million kids in it. And it's like 2 little stories.
I know, 2 little stories. You're watching this, and then but there's all these kids coming out of it. Like it's like the clowns in the Volkswagen. They just keep coming out.
But when we were little, we never thought about it. It was just the magic is so fantastic in it.
The idea of, being this wonderland of fables. And as you're introduced to each new character that's part of a fable, you're sort of reminded, oh, Little Boy Blue, and you're talking about
Little Jack Horner.
Little Jack Horner, the Queen of Hearts,
everything, all beautiful.
The whole list of characters that sort of envelop this Toyland.
That was just so great, and I loved it because it had all the elements in it that were safe terrors, but comedy.
Right.
And I mean, Stan Laurel and Oliver Hardy were just so, I think this is their best thing. And I know a lot of their movies, but I just love their stuff.
So Barnaby, Silas Barnaby, is the evil villain who looks like, and it reminded me of Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, really makes you feel like this is the evil guy. This is the villain of the movie. And here you have Stan and Ollie trying to save the day because they approach Widow Peep and they realize she's crying, like, what's going on? And all of a sudden they realize she doesn't have the money to pay the mortgage. They're all going to be kicked out. Ollie's going to get the money for her. Finds out the money he saved was used by Stan to buy Pee-wees. But he's going to ask the boss because he and the boss are like this.
And they work in Santa's toy shop. That's what they do. They build toys for Christmas.
One of the key elements of the story, and the scene I love, is when they're in the toy shop, start the work day, and sort of the preface to, okay, when am I going to ask the boss for this money? Santa Claus appears. Now, mind you, this is July. The scene takes place in July, and Santa Claus is getting ready for December, and he's ready to check his order out. Finds out that the order that he placed, which was 600 soldiers at 1 foot high, got mixed up by the boys. It ended up being 100 soldiers at 6 feet high. You can't put 6 foot high soldiers in Santa's sleigh to deliver to the children. Santa's laughing. It's that jolly old Santa. The master, as they call him, the boss,
the toy master,
is furious. They introduce the soldier, and the funny thing is the soldier runs amok. They start him out, and he's crashing through things. Things are just going haywire. He crashes through the wall, only to find out that they get dismissed. They get fired from Toyland. I'm sorry, from the toy factory.
Yeah. And Stanny goes to Ollie, you ask him. And he goes, you and the toy maker are just like this. And he goes, why don't you ask him? And he goes, well, we're just like this.
Dan and Ollie really make the movie. I mean, alone, without them, or with another pair of comedians, it wouldn't have worked. I love the scene where, now they don't have the money. And so Bo Peep kind of admits that, okay, I'll marry Silas so that Widow Peep could still live in the shoe. Unknowing to the people that are watching, there's kind of a little foolery going on in the background, devised by Stan and Ollie. And on the wedding day of Silas Barnaby and Bo Peep, they go through the wedding, veil covering the face.
Right.
The ring is placed. Everyone's watching from the windows. They're wondering what's going on. And they get married and everyone is sad. Now, Ollie is the best man. And all of a sudden, they're married. And before the veil is lifted, Ollie says, wait a minute, I need the mortgage. You got to give me the paper mortgage, which is actually funny because they think the way to solve the problem is to rip the mortgage papers out. Nowadays, you can't.
That was the thing back in the day, because they did the Little Rascals too. Remember the segment where they had it on the kite tail? As soon as you got the mortgage, as long as you tore it up, you don't have a mortgage anymore. I wish we could do that now.
Yeah, all of a sudden the mortgage is gone, tear up the paper. So Ollie takes the paper, takes the mortgage, rips it up. Okay, no more mortgage. Now Silas is ready to kiss the bride. Lifts it up, and to his surprise, it's Stanley. Everyone's laughing. Barnaby has been fooled. He leaves. He's furious. Barnaby is furious. He's leaving. Everyone's laughing outside. Tom Tom is like elated because he has feelings.
And that's the one who loves Bo Peep.
Right. He wants to marry Bo Peep.
Young guy.
Right.
Yeah. Tom Tom the Piper's son.
Yes. And he has his spandex on. Yeah. He looks really fine. Ollie says, I'll see you. And Danny's
everybody goes to go home.
Yeah, everyone goes. And Danny's like, what do you mean? He goes, well, you're married now.
You have to stay here.
You have to stay here. Iconic scene, and which really expresses the chemistry between the two guys. You have to stay here. And Danny goes, crying. He looks at the ring. He looks up, and his face changes from happy to quizzical, like, wait, what's going on? To sad. Ollie's like, what's going on? He goes, but I don't love him.
It's like so clever and so ridiculously crazy that it's beyond clever.
Right, and that was the magic between the two of them.
Right.
They had this chemistry between their comedy act.
Right.
that, you know, they could play their roles and play off each other, and it's perfection.
And the one thing that's so cool about this, I love movies where the main thing, even the title, you forget about the soldiers until the very end. And you go, oh my God, the soldiers.
And that particular ending was not only iconic, but it was brilliant, as you mentioned, but nicely kind of like pulls the whole story together.
Sure does.
You know, Tom ggets framed. I mean,
It's
this is actually
cyclical.
funny. So Barnaby, to try to get even with everyone,
It's funny.
and still wants to marry Bo Peep, frames Tom, which is kind of silly, but it's funny, that he kidnaps one of the three pigs and then makes him into sausage.
Elmer, right.
King Cole,
Yeah,
Mighty Old Soul,
Yeah, Mighty Old.
banishes him to Bogeyland. Now,
Yeah.
as a kid, I'm looking at these bogeymen. I'm scared.
Yeah.
I'm like, these bogeymen, I mean, how ridiculous they look to a child.
Yeah,
They actually look
Yeah,
scary.
there's like fake fur like that we would
Yeah, and you
buy
can see the
at,
zippers in the back.
rag shop now. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like it's crazy. Denny saves the day when he realizes that the sausage that was made out of the 1-3 pigs is not pork. Actually, the
he's
funny thing is,
eating them.
He's eating them. He goes, "This is not pig."
And he goes, how can you eat the evidence, for
Yeah.
God's sakes?
Right, but it wasn't. It was like not a pig sausage.
Yeah, and Ollie goes, you dope, these are beef.
Right. So
So they take it to the king.
Silas is going to storm the Bastille in Toyland with all of these bogeymen going over the moat with all these crocodiles all over the place.
It's very dramatic, and they decide, after trying to use all these things to defend Bogeyland, that all of a sudden, guess what's standing there in the warehouse?
The 6 foot,
Let's
100
use the
soldiers.
soldiers. And they start it when they push their big button on the back, which is so cool. And it starts like the first sequence where the music kicks in, very famous music. Then all of a sudden they turn into live actors, have, you know, a certain look. They all look the same, and they save Toyland. And it is just wonderful.
As the wooden soldiers are coming out, and they use animation, they actually use
Yes.
an animated 1 foot soldiers to like, if you notice, there's like
Yeah.
this never ending amount of
And they
soldiers. There's
start
actually more than
marching,
100.
Olive and Hardy, yeah.
And they're coming out, and Laurel and Hardy are like, you know, kind of happy they're coming out. But they have bayonets.
Yes.
Like they're going after the bogeyman with these
bayonets.
bayonets.
Yes.
They're stepping, like there's one scene where the soldier steps on the
his head.
of a bogeyman, and his head gets squished. There's another scene where he enters the house, the
His
soldier head
comes
falls
off.
out.
I love it. And then he comes
crashes
back
in,
out, and he has no head, but he's
Right.
carrying the kid.
Yep. It's
And
just
the whole thing with Barnaby is like, he's grabbing Bo Peep like, now it would be like he's going to rape her. But
Right.
of course, you don't think of that
Yeah,
stuff.
you
They
didn't
make
think anything
everything
like
such
that.
an issue now that you think about this stuff. You
Yeah.
know, we think he just was going to take her to marry her and kiss her or something.
Right.
You
There's a
didn't
little
think.
tidbit, if you watch closely. He captures Bo Peep. He's holding her. It's like carrying her away in the beginning. And then in the next shot, there's an editing goof kind of. You don't see her anymore. Like, no one knows what happened to Bo Peep. She's kind of like ran away.
Oh, yeah.
So it's these little nuances that you watch
And my
when you watch
father
it
and I
so
loved
many
to sing
times.
so much that we would, when my father was alive, we would sing the Bo Peep Lost Her Sheep song together.
Yes.
Never mind,
Never
Bo
Peep,
Peep, we will find your sheep.
no matter
And another
where
thing I
we
noticed
roam.
that's really cool is when the sheep come back and they find him, she says, well, you should hang your heads, you bad sheep. And all the sheep have all their heads. And I go,
They bow their
did they
heads.
drug them or
I
were
thought
they
that too.
trained?
I thought that like, oh my God, they're
Their
like
heads were bowed down right to the ground. I'm
Almost like in
wait a minute.
sync.
How do you do that with a sheep?
But if you notice, the
But then
sheep
the
were
ASPCA was
surrounded
there.
by people.
Right.
So who was in the back doing something to the sheep so they would
Either
go
that,
down?
but I don't think the ASPCA, even though they were formed, Hollywood has so much power and everything. I think that they got away with it.
Yeah, they did something a little sketchy. It's called the Tom and Jerry. Let me show you what the Tom and Jerry looked like. Now,
Is it warm, Joe?
it's warm.
Oh, good.
Well, we've been talking so much, maybe it's not so warm. It was named after an 1821 novel, Life in London, that connects the playful, toy-filled world of babes in Toyland. So it's like a little kind of like fantasy, kind of playful connection between the two. There's 2 parts of this recipe. You have to make the batter. For each drink, though, tablespoon of the batter, an ounce of rum, an ounce of brandy, and add hot milk, hot water, or coffee or tea, like kind of like boiling.
I love
so 6
this.
ounces of that water, coffee, or tea. and then use grated nutmeg on top for a
I
garnish.
love this, Joe.
I know.
So will you come over and watch March of the Wooden Soldiers? And then we can drink
it's
this.
so good.
Then we're going to eat ourselves like wild on turkey.
Can you figure out, folks, what we're trying to dress up as?
Yep.
Debbie, you?
Well, I have to give a shout out to one of the people that helps me with my costumes. This was made by my girlfriend, Susan Bloor, who's the property mistress at the Axelrod Theater. And she created this for me.
I love that costume.
I believe the hat is from The Music Man because we do a lot of big musicals there.
I'm dressed up as a wooden soldier also, but it's a little bit of a twist. So this is a kind of a cross between a Nutcracker outfit costume and Fortnite, for those who play Fortnite, Crackshot. So I kind of like made little changes to it, tucked in the hair, took off the mask, and I am also a
Plus, we
wooden
both
soldier.
have red cheeks because the wooden soldiers have red circles on their cheeks.
Stan Laurel and Oliver Hardy. One of the few actors and the only comedic duo that became successful out of the silent film era. They met by chance. Stan Hardy was trying to become his own actor from Britain. He actually wrote comedy, he directed, and he was trying to sort of make a name for himself, starred in a lot of short silent films. By chance, he was paired with Ollie in a short film where Ollie played the heavy, and the heavy during those days were considered the villain. It wasn't until 7 years later after that that they both were hired or retained by Hal Roach.
Right.
Hal Roach from the Our Gang
The
era.
producer of the picture.
Stan was really a true creator. Like Ollie trusted him implicitly.
He was the brains behind the, which he always plays the dumb one.
Right.
But he actually was the brains
he was the smart
behind it.
one.
And did you know that Stan Laurel was an understudy for Charlie Chaplin?
I did.
Okay.
He actually tried to portray himself and he looked at Charlie Chaplin as someone who he sort of aspired to.
Right.
But it's funny because Charlie Chaplin really didn't make it out of the silent movies as well as he did in silence. Whereas the reverse happened with Stan and Ollie. There's this great example, one of the research scenes that I saw, where a lot of the actors used talkies as sort of like an accessory, kind of like, okay, it's just there. But Stan knew to use talkies to make their act even funnier. There's this one scene where they're together, and normally back in the silent movies, if you fell down, like Buster Keaton, fall down a stairway of stairs of. If you fell down a flight of stairs, you would see the action of the person actually falling down and potentially hurt yourself because most of them did their stunts themselves. Stan was actually smarter than that. He used this particular scene to fall down the flight of stairs, and Ollie follows him, but you don't see him fall. You see him fall, but then you don't see him anymore, and you hear the sound of someone falling down the stairs, like boom, and then it kind of stops. It goes boom again, and then Ollie's like, like just the expression on him, which was brilliant at the time because you didn't need to see the action, you heard it, which made, again, the audience envisions what's going on. They make it themselves. They pull the audience into the film.
Now I'm going to ask you a little question.
Sure.
It's Debbie's thing a little bit.
Go.
Okay, they were the reigning comedy team, and guess who replaced them as the next reigning comedy team?
I'm going to guess Lou Costello.
You got it.
Yep.
Abbott and Costello.
Abbott and Costello.
And when Abbott and Costello were huge, of course, Hal Roach was really something. He worked as a mule skinner and a gold prospector before he went into Hollywood. But he was with Harold Lloyd. Mm-hmm. Harold Lloyd's a big silent film star. Right. You don't see his stuff too much, but he's very funny. And Hal Roach was huge. His whole career, he was huge, known as the king of comedy. Never had a lag in anything. And he had an alliance, Mr. Italian, with Benito Mussolini. Ooh. And he formed RAM, Roach and Mussolini. But the biggest thing that people would know him as well is he started the Our Gang comedies, which people know as the Little Rascals, which were huge.
Oliver used the fourth wall to make the scenes even funnier.
Yes.
If you watch him closely, Ollie would look at the camera, give that pause, and Stanley would say, and he would direct, even though he wasn't credited as a director, like, let the camera roll for a couple seconds.
Did you hear about all the injuries on this? It had like a curse on it.
Did it?
Stan Laurel fell off a platform and tore ligaments in his right leg. Henry Brandon, who was Barnaby, was injured in a bar fight at the brass rail. Assistant director Gordon Douglas slid 15 feet from the old woman's shoe, fell off the top of it, and tore up his left leg. Cupie Morgan played Old King Cole. Cupie Morgan, can you imagine? Because he laughed so continuously, he ruptured all the muscles in his stomach. And Oliver Hardy entered St. Vincent's Hospital to have his tonsils removed the day after filming wrapped. And Hal Roach, the same day, developed appendicitis.
Gus Maines, again, better known for his Our Gang shorts for Al Roach. This was the only film he did with Laurel and Hardy. There was kind of an interesting setup here because you had Charley Rogers, who was assigned to do the directing of the comedy, but really it was Stan Laurel that directed a lot of the comedy. Matter of fact, there was a lot of kind of headbutting with Stan and Hal Roach because originally when he saw the screenplay, or I guess the script, he thought that Hal Roach wasn't really portraying Stan and Ollie as Stan and Ollie. He's making it something different than what people were accustomed to and what they were popular for.
And I want to say something about the stop motion animation for the Wooden Soldiers. It was created by special effects director Roy Seawright and cinematographer Art Lloyd. They used 100 wooden toy soldiers, each standing 1 foot high. They were meticulously posed and shot frame by frame. 11 of those soldiers seen in the sequence are known to survive to this day. 1 drummer, 1 trumpeter, and 9 riflemen. A Roche studio executive saved 10 of them and passed them down to his family, who publicly revealed their existence in 2020. That same year, 1 sold at auction for $14,520. Another 1 is owned by Laurel and Hardy historian Randy Skretvet, who occasionally loans it out at a museum exhibit. And then there were 6 minutes formerly missing from the film. They were restored, and now they're on Turner. So when you see it on Thanksgiving, it is the uncut version, okay? And it was saved by the National Recovery Act, which I didn't even know about.
So there's a ton of copyright issues with this movie that people may not realize. The original was black and white. Stan Laurel fought with Hal Roach because he thought it should be in Technicolor, but Hal Roach, because he was trying to save a buck, didn't do it. Ironically, later on in 2006, and earlier than that too, I can't remember the date, but they colorized the movie, re-released in the 50s under a different production company. Reduced, it was edited to a 73-minute version back in 1950 by Lipper Pictures and retitled March of the Wooden Soldiers. So that's where we get the title change. Kind of a confusion because the old company renewed the copyright and the new company was trying to renew the copyright, and the original film had the copyright claim on the movie. The new one in the 1950s that was cut didn't. So people thought, oh, this is public domain. They're going to go after it. WPIX in New York, the New York station, began its initial airing of that movie when it gained the copyrights of March of the Wooden Soldiers. December 24th, 1952 was the first showing. And then the Thanksgiving tradition, again, as part of the Macy's Day Parade, started in 1963 and every year since it's been on. But there's always been these fights, kind of questioning between the copyrights because they're claiming that the 50s version didn't have the disclaimer, the original did. It's considered like an orphan movie. I came across this term because PIX actually has the rights. Later was bought by MGM, which kind of comes full circle back to the original movie. PIX never fought these copyright issues, and it sort of allowed all these VHS changes. So you might see one named March of the Wooden Soldiers, might see one named Babes in Toyland. Matter of fact, WPIX, when it first came out, named it Babes in Toyland back in the 60s, and no one knew what the hell the movie was because they were used to now March of the Wooden Soldiers.
I love the March of the Wooden Soldiers.
Oh, it's such a better name, without a doubt. I got one more piece of trivia that's really going to blow you away. Are you ready?
I'm beyond ready.
It involves the 3 little pigs because one of the 3 little pigs was a little piggy himself.
A real pig?
No.
I don't know. I don't know.
Let's say they went a little blue. So there were 3 pigs.
But what were they? Were they children or midgets? I don't even know what was in there.
I'm going to educate you and the audience. So this was fascinating when I came across this. And you don't see this a lot on YouTube. I just tripped over this doing research. Elmer was Angelo Rosito. He was an actual little person. He was the kidnapped pig. The other two were child actors. Matter of fact, one is still alive today.
Get out.
Jigs, the pig, was played by Payne B. Johnson. He's a child actor at the time, and he's still alive at the age of 94.
There you go.
The last one, Willie the pig, was done by Edward Earl Marsh. Edward Earl Marsh was later known as a performer as Edward Earl. He fell upon hard times and changed his name by reinventing himself as Zebedee Colt, an out-gay cabaret singer and porn star.
Now, all my childhood...
Shocking!
Which pig was it? Was it the straw pig, the brick pig, or the other pig?
He was the pig that was in...
the brick house?
Maybe he had a brick house.
Now all my childhood dreams are shattered and I need therapy.
And folks, you probably didn't know that. But he's actually well known. He actually has a name for himself besides the other blue stuff that he did. He was the first...
Stuff you find.
in 1960s, he became the innovator of queer cabaret. And when he recorded the early gay album, I'll Sing For You with the London Philharmonic Orchestra. Can you believe it?
No.
Although he was a gay cabaret singer, he still needed the money to survive. So in the 70s, he played a porn actor in both straight and gay porn. In the 70s, he did straight porn like The American Adventures of Sherlock Holmes.
We've gone off the rails, kids, on this one.
And then in the 80s, he made a comeback in porn in the USA.
Porn in the U.S. You know, and now this whole thing of the beauty of the sweetness of this has turned to blue. It's unbelievable.
I wonder what happened with Little Boy Blue.
Little Boy Blue, Little Pig Blue. This is what this is now. Good grief.
I love doing research for these episodes.
Yeah, but I mean, you know, we're dealing with a charming Thanksgiving film. Now I'm going to have to find out which pig it was and what house he lived in.
But, okay. I'm trying to figure it out too, but if you notice...
Did you give me a Joe's thing? I don't even... Was this part of it?
This was the warm-up.
Jesus Christ.
Filming turned into a symphony of cast medical emergencies.
Well, I just went through them all.
No shit, Sherlock. Will you just pay attention?
Yes, okay. yes.
Stan Laurel fell off a platform and tore ligaments in his right leg.
Did.
So you have to tell me which one is not true.
Oh, okay.
So I'm going to give you a list and you tell me, no, that one is not true.
Okay.
Stan Laurel fell off a platform and tore his ligaments in his right leg.
Correct.
Henry Brandon was injured in a bar fight at the Brass Rail.
Yep.
Assistant director Gordon Douglas slid 15 feet from the top of the old woman's shoe and tore his ligaments in his left leg.
Correct.
Alice Moore, the Queen of Hearts, gave birth to a baby boy on the set. Q.P. Morgan, part of the Old King, who played the part of Old King Cole, called for him to laugh hysterically, continuously, and after 2 days, he ruptured the muscles in his stomach. Oliver Hardy entered St. Vincent's Hospital to have his tonsils removed.
Yep.
Hal Roche developed appendicitis, which did not happen.
The baby falling right out of her as she was running through Toyland.
You're right! Alice Moore did not have a baby on set. She played the part of the Queen of Hearts. But she did elope with Felix Knight, Tom Tom, after the film was finished. So I guess you could say that Tom Tom and the Queen of Hearts played gin rummy behind Bo Peep's back.
But you know that Bo Peep and Tom Tom had an affair as well? They were lovers on the set?
No.
Oh, yes.
No.
Now, see.
The Queen of Hearts didn't know that.
See what happens? This is what happens when you do modern film reviews.
Watch our show.
Everything goes south. What it was, this charming, beautiful little picture is now desecrated.
And that's why you have to watch our show, because we'll tell you the stuff you won't see elsewhere.
We'll destroy everything. Yes, we'll destroy.
Ruin your visions of classic movies.
That's it.
So audience members, as you're watching, if you answer this one correctly, comment below. If you're the first one to Tom and Jerry. If you're the first one to guess correctly, you too might get a shout out in a future episode of the Rewatchlist Plus.
Or they might win a green 2014 Kia Soul.
Yeah, we have that outside.
Yeah, it's outside. Ready to go.
Yep. Who were the mother and father of the three little pigs? Hint. They were displayed in the film. Answer correctly, comment below. If you're the first, we'll mention your name in a future episode.
Do you have anything else to say before I do my watch list?
You can't beat the porn.
Well, I'm telling you, that was a really great ending to that review. I thought it was all magical. I'm saying it's magical, color, beautiful, wonderful. And you're going, this thing had porn, it had no money, it's crazy. Yeah, that's all good. We all like that. It was such a wonderful coda to the end of the whole thing. That was our arc. That was our arc right there.
I gotta go to the bathroom so bad. Hurry up.
You can't go. I'm doing my watch list. Just stop it. Next time you're wearing Depends. And then we'll give you...
sponsor of the Real Watchlist Plus.
What is it? Lumious for We'll give you Mando. You're going to put some Mando on after you go in your pants. All right, contain yourself. What does this take? 3 minutes? You can't handle it?
No.
They're waiting for this. This is a big part of this show.
Midnight. Excuse me.
Won't know, if I don't do this, they won't know what to watch. They'll just be wandering aimlessly, trying to stream things. Help. All right, number 1. Now stop. White Christmas.
That's not a yellow Christmas.
From 1954, a successful song and dance team become romantically involved with a sister act to save the failing Vermont Inn of their former commanding general. It has Rosemary Clooney before she got fat. And, and Dean Jagger, my favorite song. What do you say to General when he's not being a general? It's so stupid, but I do love that song. Okay. Number 2. Nobody ever sees this. You have to seek it out. Tom Thumb. Stop. My buttons will blow off. From 1958, a boy, no bigger than a thumb, manages to outwit 2 thieves determined to make a fortune from exploiting him. All right, you only got 3 more. Hans Christian Andersen, Danny Kaye again, 1952. Once upon a time, there was a story to Hans Christian Andersen. We're defaming these people's memories, okay? Just stop. This isn't a story about his life, but it ventures into the fairy tales he was famous for. Miracle on 34th Street from 1947, not the one from 1994. The new ones, they all suck. I hate them. And after a divorced mother hires a nice old man to play Santa Claus at Macy's, she is startled by his claim to be the genuine article. When his sanity is questioned, a lawyer defends him in court, arguing that he's in fact the real deal with the help of the United States Postal Service.
Is that it?
And number 5. Now this one,
how the hell are they going to edit this?
You cannot laugh at this one. Let it go.
Let it go?
I mean, people will be like, Stan and Ollie, now stop, from 2018. It's a true story of one of Hollywood's greatest double acts, Laurel and Hardy, and their personal lives are brought to the big screen.
I
did not like the film.
Yeah, really? Why are you bringing it up?
I didn't review it well, but I think if they've liked Laurel and Hardy, maybe to know the backstory about them.
There's plenty of documentaries on YouTube. Check out my YouTube channel.
Well, just,
I got saved a great one. Check it out.
Every once in a while, I have to put something in this century for these people. Because I would have nothing from this century. I'm going to share you my
documentary. You go watch my documentary and say that this guy did an excellent job about Laurel Hardy.
No, I'm not watching anything of yours.
Just watch the movie.
Right,
it's great. It's freaking great. Laurel and Hardy, I haven't watched it in a long time. I watched it. I still couldn't stop laughing at Laurel and Hardy.
You gotta watch it. It's one of those movies you watch.
I love the music. I almost peed in my pants, but I'm going to do that now.
Well, since my reputation cannot be ruined, I'm going to sum this up as a real film critic. The main takeaway from March of the Wooden Soldiers, also known as Babes in Toyland, is the importance of teamwork, courage, and good triumphing over evil. Set in a whimsical world of beautiful nursery rhyme characters, the film focuses on how a community of friends comes together to defeat a horrible villain and save Toyland. The wooden soldiers, initially seen as inanimate toys, come to life at a critical moment, symbolizing how even the most seemingly powerless thing can become a force for good when united.
Peep lost her sheep. We can't find them. Where did they go? Debbie, where are we going?
Well, you definitely never know where we're going until we go there. And that's for sure with this episode.